Is Janice joining?
I do not see her. Right, it's 6 o'clock, Mr. Chair.
That's far away, so we're on.
You are ready to go, and Janice is here with us. Just admitting her.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Bowman, and I am the chair of tonight's special Kenora Planning Advisory Committee meeting for February 28th, 2024. As we gather, we recognize that we're in Treaty 3 lands, which are steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations and Métis people today. We continue to be thankful for the partnerships with Indigenous people. We give thanks for the many blessings we enjoy in the city of Kenora. We seek wisdom in our minds, clearness in our thinking, truth in our speaking, and always love in our hearts. Let these principles guide us in our decision-making. Prior to calling the meeting to order, to all members of the public, please send a private message to the Secretary Treasurer and inform them of your legal name so it can be entered into the meeting records. Please ensure your microphone is on mute, and please be mindful of what is visible to the public in your surroundings. And please note that this meeting is being recorded, and by continuing to be in the meeting, you consent to be recorded. Tap Leave Meeting to opt out and exit the session. When it is time for public comments, I will address the participant by the name that was recorded with the Secretary Treasurer at the start of this virtual PAC meeting. Once your name has been called, please then unmute your microphone or your telephone. All people addressing the committee shall state their full name and must direct their comments through myself, the chair. Decisions will be mailed or emailed to the applicant, agent, and to all other interested parties who have provided their mailing addresses and or email address to the Secretary Treasurer. The notice of appeal for a minor variance application must be filed with the Secretary Treasurer within 20 days of making of the decision. The notice of appeal for a land division application must be filed with the Secretary Treasurer within 20 days of the mailing of the notice. Other than the applicant, only a specified person or a public body as defined in section 1, bracket 1 of the Planning Act has the ability to appeal the decision made by the Kenora Planning Advisory Committee to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The Secretary Treasurer for the Kenora Planning Advisory Committee is Melissa Shaw. The Director of Building and Planning is Janice Chilo, who is online. I call this meeting to order at 6:02. I think it's time. So, is there any additions to the agenda?
I do not have any additions, Mr. Chair, but I do have an amendment, if that's okay to read it into record. I'd ask that we scratch approval of minutes for meetings held December 19th and January 17th, as those were approved at our regular meeting held on February 20th.
Okay. Call for declaration of interest by a member for this meeting or at a meeting in which the member was not present. And could the approval of the minutes is done. Is there any correspondence relating to the application before the committee?
As of today's date, we received no additional correspondence.
And there's no adjournment requests?
None today, no.
So we'll move on to the consideration of the application for the minor variance.
It's actually consideration for application for land division. My apologies, Mr. Chair. It is a consent.
Okay. For land division. So who is here to present the application?
We have Carla Devlin Scott online. Carla, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Perfect. You have the floor. We are unable to see you. You can choose to present with your camera off, but we can hear you loud and clear.
And what do you want me to present? My understanding was that I just had to be present. So I guess
Okay. It's your call if you want to make a presentation or not to support your application. Janice will be making a presentation, the planning report from the city.
okay. So I guess maybe I'll just give a brief, those that were present at the previous consent, we had applied for consent before, but unfortunately, the purchaser of the property was looking for more land because they would like to be able to possibly build another building on the site. So, we have reapplied, obviously, and to give them more property, and we are not applying for consent now to sell a piece to Riverview. They have chosen not to purchase it. So, that property will remain, in the hands of, Devlin Timber. And as far as we're concerned, it's basically exactly the same as the last, approval, just making it so that the, purchaser can have a little bit more property to support their business.
All right, thank you, Carla. So if I could ask Janice to present the planning report.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. So this is a application for consent for land division, and it is to create one new 3.97 hectare property in a highway commercial zone and to retain a 3.55 acre property also in the highway commercial zone. This application will also establish an easement that benefits access to the lot being created as well as the lot being retained. So the property is located on the south side of Highway 17 East. It is bounded on the northwest side by the CPR rail line and unorganized territory to the west. There are commercial uses on neighboring properties to both the east and west.
If I can just correct you, we are located on the West Highway.
Oh, sorry, that was my mistake.
Okay.
The southeastern portion of the property has also been developed for commercial use, while the northern and western portions of the property remain extensively tree covered. The property is serviced with seasonal water, but does not have sewer service. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement as well as the City of Kenora official plan. Highway 17 West is a major arterial road for the City of Kenora, which are intended to carry large volumes of traffic and are to be protected by restricting the number of intersecting streets and driveways. So the shared driveway is existing and would continue to be shared. So that is in compliance with our official plan. The zoning, it is zoned highway commercial, and that is the intended use of the land. In accordance with the zoning bylaw, both lots must have 25 meters of frontage. The lot retained has 46 meters of frontage and the lot created has 43, so both of them meet that requirement. The minimum lot area in the HC zone is 1 hectare. Both proposed lots exceed that minimum amount. Required side yard is 3 meters. There is 1 building that is located on the proposed lot. It appears to be 10 meters from the proposed property line. And as a result of that building, we have included in our recommendations that the surveyor provide assurance that the property line will be in compliance with the existing zoning bylaw. This application has been circulated within the city as well as externally. The Northwest Health Unit replied with no concerns. Both proposed lots have adequate space for septic system to be installed or replaced when needed. No comments or concerns were identified by various city departments. The application was also circulated to the public in accordance with Section 5(3) of the Planning Act. It was circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and notice was posted on the property. As of today's date, no letters have been received from the public. If approved, the proposed consent would create one new lot. An easement would be created over the residual parcel in favor of the new lot. It is the department's recommendation that application D10-2304 for consent for lot severance to create an easement on property located at 2020 Highway 17 West, legally described as PIN 42154-001, City of Kenora, be approved, and the provisional consent be granted subject to the following conditions. The original executed transfer deed of land form, a duplicate original and one photocopy for city records be provided for each parcel. A schedule to the transfer deed of land form on which is set out the entire legal description of the PINs in question and containing the names of the parties indicated on page 1 of the transfer deed of land form be provided for each parcel. That the new lot and the easement over the residual property be surveyed and described on a reference plan, and that a draft is provided to the planning department for pre-approval. That written confirmation from a land surveyor licensed to practice in the province of Ontario, that the subdivision as proposed will not cause existing buildings to be out of compliance with the current zoning bylaw. Specifically, confirmation must be given that the required side yards are maintained. That 3 original copies and 1 PDF copy of the reference plan of survey bearing the Land Registry Office registration number and signatures as evidence of deposit therein, and illustrating the parts to which the consent approval relates, must be shown in general the same area and dimensions as the sketch forming part of the application provided. That payment of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, and any local improvement charges, if applicable, shall be paid to the City of Kenora. That prior to the endorsement of the deeds, the Secretary Treasurer shall receive a letter from the owner or the owner's agent confirming that conditions 1 through 5 have been fulfilled. Clearance from the City of Kenora and external agencies as required are to be included. And the last condition, that all costs associated with surveys, legal fees, and matters related to the application be the responsibility of the developer applicant. And that concludes the planning department's report.
Thank you, Janice. Now, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application online? I don't. And is there anyone in the public who wish to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, if I could ask the Secretary Treasurer if there's any letters received from the public.
We've received no letters to date.
And committee members, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Renee?
No.
So could I ask the Secretary Treasurer to read the proposed decision?
Certainly. The motion reading that application D10-2401 for consent, lot creation, and the establishment of an easement for access on property located at 2020 Highway 17 West and legally described as PIN 42154-001, City of Kenora be approved and provisional consent be granted, subject to the conditions which were outlined in the planning report and presented by the Director Janice Bacalo and detailed in the decision.
All right, thank you. So could I have a member of the committee move that? Eric, and seconder? Renee? All in favor?
Perfect. We have a majority vote. So Ms. Devlin Scott, you have received provisional approval here this evening. That decision is subject to a 20-day appeal period, and that will be conditional upon notice. I will submit notice to you tomorrow, and that appeal period will end on March 20th. Certainly you and I can have discussions about any questions you have about meeting those conditions. Okay. Do you have any further questions? You may be muted. Okay.
Okay,
Mute, okay. So, yeah, the only question I had was, could you repeat to me the side yards that are required from the shop building to the property line?
Certainly. So Janice, did you want me to speak to that or did you want to?
It's 3 meters.
Okay, so we're fine. I think the closest, I think we're 30 meters or 30 feet or 20 feet from the septic, from a fence, so we're good. Okay,
all right. Good, thank you very much.
thank you.
So moving on in the agenda, consideration of applications for, is it minor variances then?
Yes, we have no applications for minor variances, Mr. Chair.
And recommendations to council for amendments? None. No old business? No new business? So could I have a motion for adjournment? Eric?
At 6:15.
6:15. Thank you very much.
Concise. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
For meeting. It's pretty straightforward.
Rick wants to be on.